These are some points which we have covered in this video and explained in a simplistic way. What is classic cutting in film editing? Classical cutting, also referred to as continuity editing or transparent editing, is a film editing style that prioritizes creating a smooth, seamless viewing experience for the audience. It aims to tell the story in a clear and linear fashion, ensuring viewers can easily follow the unfolding events on screen. D.W. Griffith and classic cutting. Griffith has been called the father of film because he consolidated and expanded many of the techniques invented by his predecessors and was the first to go beyond gimmickry into the realm of art. D.W. Griffith juxtaposed different scenes and storylines to create a cohesive narrative. This technique allowed him to convey complex emotions and advance the plot in a more engaging way. Griffith also revolutionized the use of close-ups and medium shots. He understood that by bringing the camera closer to the actors, he could capture their facial expressions and emotions in greater detail. This technique helps to create a more intimate connection between the audience and the characters on screen. Technique for dramatic intensity and emotional emphasis. Classical cutting involves editing for dramatic intensity and emotional emphasis rather than for purely physical reasons. Through the use of the close-up within the scene, Griffith managed to achieve a dramatic impact that was unprecedented. Close-ups had been used earlier, but Griffith was the first to use them for psychological rather than physical reasons alone. Audiences were now permitted to see the smallest details of an actor's face. The slightest arch of an eyebrow could convey a multitude of subtleties. By splitting the action into a series of fragmentary shots, Griffith achieved not only a greater sense of detail, but a far greater degree of control over his audience's reactions. In carefully selecting and juxtaposing long, medium, and close shots, he constantly shifted the spectator's point of view within a scene, expanding here, excluding there, emphasizing, consolidating, connecting, contrasting, paralleling, and so on. The possibilities were far-ranging. The breakup of shots is justified on the basis of dramatic rather than literal necessity. The scene could be photographed just as functionally in a single shot, with the camera at long shot range. This type of setup is known as a master shot or a sequence shot. Classical cutting is more nuanced and more intrusive. It breaks down the unity of space, analyzes its components, and refocuses our attention on a series of details. The action is mental and emotional rather than literal. The 1930s and 1940s. During the golden years of the American studio system, roughly the 1930s and 1940s, directors were often urged to adopt the master shot technique of shooting. This method involved shooting an entire scene in long shot without cuts. This take contained all the dramatic variables and hence served as the master shot for the scene. The action was then repeated a number of times, with the camera photographing medium shots and close-ups of the principals in the scene. When all this footage was gathered together, the editor had a number of choices in constructing a story continuity. Often, disagreements arose over the proper sequence of shots. Usually the studio director was permitted a first cut, the sequence of shots representing his or her interpretation of the materials. Under this system, the studios usually had the right to a final cut. Many directors disliked the master shot technique precisely because, with so much footage available, a meddling producer could construct a radically different continuity. Classical editing conventions. Master shots are still used by many directors. Without a master, editors often complain of inadequate footage, that the available shots won't cut smoothly. In complex battle scenes, most directors are likely to shoot many cover shots, general shots that can be used to re-establish a sequence if the other shots won't cut. In The Birth of a Nation, Griffith used multiple cameras to photograph many of the battle scenes. Griffith and other classical filmmakers developed a variety of editing conventions that they thought made the cutting invisible. One of these techniques is the eye-line match. Another convention of classical cutting is matching action. The idea is to keep the action fluid, to mask the cut with a smooth linkage that's not noticed because the motion of the character takes precedence. Clarity in classical editing. Classical editing prioritizes clarity over stylistic flourishes. Edits are typically invisible, meaning they don't draw attention to themselves. The focus remains on the story and the characters, allowing viewers to be immersed in the narrative without being distracted by noticeable cuts or editing techniques. This style ensures viewers can easily follow the cause and effect relationships between scenes, understand the emotional beats of the story, and stay engaged with the characters' journeys. Linear narrative flow. The editing style typically follows a linear narrative structure, where scenes unfold in a chronological order. This means the story progresses in a logical sequence, cause and effect relationships are clear, and flashbacks or flash-forwards are used sparingly and strategically to avoid confusing the audience. Classical cutting excels at establishing a clear cause and effect relationship between scenes, allowing viewers to anticipate upcoming events based on the information presented earlier in the film. This approach is particularly effective for character development, as it allows viewers to witness the characters' journeys unfold in a step-by-step manner, building empathy and understanding for their motivations and transformations throughout the story. The Shawshank Redemption is an example of classic cutting. Despite its complex narrative, the film utilizes clear, classical editing techniques to ensure viewers remain invested in Andy Dufresne's story. Thanks for watching. Please comment down your thoughts.